Technology Bank 2021, Bank of Baroda presents Bob World. A world that is in tune with your world.
Check this out.
It hasn't been such a long time since people first started shopping online, and it was easy to keep up with the clicks. Little by little by little by more, the clicks added up to be more than the stores, and e-tailers worked harder than ever before because they had to keep up with the clicks. No time for borders, gotta stay in control to stay in the flow and continue to grow. But we'll help you keep up with the clicks.
Guys, I'm getting my new bike tomorrow.
Great! Now I will come with Ron every day.
Do you have insurance?
What do you think? I have insurance, PUC, everything.
I was talking about life insurance for Sia.
Oh.
Jokes apart, guys. Life shouldn't be all pleasure today and pain tomorrow.
Yeah.
Seriously, life insurance is necessary.
LIC's new Jeevan Anand gives you double benefit, full payment on maturity, and life cover continues lifelong.
Hey, hello. Do you have insurance?
Ciao amico! Oh, sicuro! Proprio ora! Cisaro! I'll be there in 15 minutes, yeah.
Everything will have an Italian flavor when your home will be adorned with Simpolo tiles and sanitary ware.
Simpolo Ceramics, the art of fascination.
आग को फैलने से रोकना मुश्किल है, पर नामुमकिन नहीं। अब फायरवॉल टेक्नोलॉजी के साथ सेंचुरी प्लाई आग से बचाए।
आजकल मार्केट में रिटर्न्स अच्छे मिल रहे हैं,
पर इक्विटी में रिस्क ज्यादा है।
डेट में स्टेबिलिटी तो है, पर रिटर्न्स का क्या?
ये टेंशन फ्री है क्योंकि इन्होंने SBI बैलेंस एडवांटेज फंड में इन्वेस्ट किया है, जहां एक्सपर्ट्स सब संभाल लेंगे। हरी, NFO closes on 25th August. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.
Welcome back. You're watching Buy Now Sell Now, and it's time for us to hit the query segment. And I know that quite a few of you sitting in your homes and watching this on television have already sent us queries on WhatsApp. We'll start taking them, and in fact I'm going to request my colleagues to just pull this up on the screen, the number that you can use in order to send us those messages. It is 86579745571. So you can save it and send us your questions on WhatsApp. And I'm sure that a lot of you are already tuned in on YouTube as well. I would encourage you to post your queries on YouTube as well. I'm going to start with a couple of questions that we've already received on WhatsApp. And the first one has to do, Kunal, with Allied Digital Services. It's currently trading at just under 60. It's not a large cap. In fact, it is a micro cap. So if you don't have a view, I will go to something else. The viewer has bought at levels of 100 and it has given up those levels. What do you suggest that they do now?
So yes, Alex, I think it's not a large cap, either a mid cap name. The stock history as well over the last 14-15 months has been a bit staggered. So when you look at it from the March 2020 lows, it's recovered in more or less in line with how many of these mid cap, small cap stocks have done. But then when you look at it comparatively over the last 10 years or the stock has been has not even corrected 50% of where it was 10-12 years back. I think the high which the stock had made was 270-265 odd, and it's still at 55-60 odd rupees range, even after rallying from 12 rupees to 60 rupees in the span of the last 14-15 months. So it's a stock which is weaker in terms of long-term price trends, and I would suggest that you've got this rally of 10 to 60 odd rupees for the stock. Should be a good time for you to exit.
All right, this one is coming from Shushrit. He's saying that he's recently got one lot of Glenmark Life, I believe he means to say, and also Windless Bio. And he's saying both of them have not had a good start, but he wants to know, does it make sense to add on to some more of the stock? He has a long-term view on both of these counters. Gaurang, I know fairly new, very newly listed companies, but would you have any perspective over the longer term? Make sense if someone wants to get into it or already has, make sense to stay put with this holding?
So Cheryl, I'll restrict my comments to Glenmark Life because that is where we had come out with an IPO note and given an advisory in terms of long-term subscription to the IPO. And not to forget, Cheryl, the entire pharma pack has been under the weather post the fantastic performance over the last maybe about 1.5 to 2 years because of the pandemic. This is a new listing and we were quite impressed with the business outlook that the management has shared before the IPO. And we remain positive on the long-term outlook of the company in terms of business growth and earnings visibility. So a lot of people get attracted to these IPOs purely from listing gains point of view, and not all IPOs give you that kind of gains. There are certain IPOs which you have to reflect upon from a different vision altogether, and Glenmark Life happens to be one of them. The other one, unfortunately, we don't have any coverage, so I won't be able to comment on that.
That's completely fine, Gaurang. And in fact, there are so many of these IPOs that are coming up. It's a good point that you're making that viewers need to bear in mind. Let's take the next question. We've got Chaitanya from Bangalore who's asking about IG Petrochemicals. Kunal, this is a stock that had a stellar run if you look at the 12-month period, but he's bought at absolutely elevated levels. 660 is where he bought, and the stock has since then given up those levels. What is the strategy that he can employ?
We should be a bit cautious over here because what has actually happened, Alex, is that the stock has managed to make a double top on the long-term chart. So 700 odd levels was tested, I think, in 2018, where the stock made an all-time high for itself, and from there it went down to correcting to as much as 80 odd rupees. So there was a very, very sharp correction which transpired in IG Petro in that time span of 2018 to 2020. Yes, the stock has now rallied back towards that 700 odd levels, but then it's formed a double top. The indicators are also not showing any major kind of strength over here. I would expect that the stock would go through one more round of correction at least, and maybe try to retest towards the 200-day moving average. So I think 480, 500 is where I believe that the stock can find some bit of support at those kind of territories. So I would suggest that don't be in a hurry to average. If you're looking to exit, then you can exit now, and I think a better entry point for you would be close to that 480 to 500 zone.
Right, this one is from Neeraj Kumar. He wants a view on Greaves Cotton for the longer term. He's already holding about 1,000 shares, which he's purchased at 120 rupees per share. Gaurang, what's your view on Greaves Cotton? How does this particular counter look like?
Well, so the performance of the company has been in the better shape, and with the outlook of future growth in terms of the new normal that has come in, our sense is that there should be better execution of capabilities and capacities that this company has. It will not be a runaway kind of a rally in the stock. It will purely depend how the company performs in terms of earnings. But yes, if you got in from a long-term point of view, you can hold on to it. And if you get dips on bad days, you can consider averaging at lower level.
Okay, we've got a question coming in from Puneet Miglani. He's apparently just messaged talking about IDBI Bank, and I know that there is also a question that we've gotten from somebody else on IDFC First Bank. So I'm going to combine the two. Gaurang, IDBI Bank, IDFC First Bank. We've got Gopal Krishna in Delhi who's asking about this. What are the prospects for these two? And we've already spoken about HDFC Bank. Would you prefer a larger bank compared to these two?
Well, that's definitely no rocket science over there, Alex. I would definitely recommend large and even mid-size private sector banks. On IDBI Bank, well, I remember in the budget announcement, the late Finance Minister, Mr. Jaitley, mentioned about privatizing IDBI Bank, but nothing has moved after that, and there seems to be no momentum on the ground. On the earnings side also, there is huge disappointment, Alex. I would advise a switch to a smaller private sector bank like Federal Bank from IDBI Bank in case if the investor is wanting to make a switch. Or alternatively, I have given a detailed verbatim about HDFC Bank, and likewise we like Axis Bank, ICICI Bank, and of course IndusInd Bank and Kotak Mahindra Bank. These are some of the few picks. On IDFC First Bank, well, the recent development which we all are aware about with respect to V, that is Vodafone Idea, this has sent certain banks who have large exposure to this Vodafone Idea entity into a wee bit of tailspin, and the existence of this company is also a little bit grayish as far as the current scenario is concerned. There is a lot of uncertainty. We had been positive on IDFC First Bank before this news flow came through. Post that, we are maintaining a cautious stance on IDFC First Bank. And if you have a low risk appetite, then I think you should take flight to safety. Federal Bank would be a preferred choice. Other than this, if I have to highlight another bank, mid-size or a smaller size private sector bank, then I think Catholic Syrian Bank or City Union Bank would be preferred alternative ideas.
Okay, this query is coming in from Swayam Chopra, and he wants to know about Supreme Petro. He's holding some shares that he's purchased at 775 rupees per share. So he wants to accumulate more of Supreme Petro for the longer term. So he wants to know what sort of a price should he average is buying. Kunal, what's your take coming in on Supreme Petro? What sort of a level should Swayam look at?
See, ideally, the stock is going through a cool-off mode. What had happened was after the steep 10-12 months of a consecutive price uptick for Supreme Petro, where the stock ran from 120 to almost 800. The RS had gone back to levels of 92, 95 odd for the stock, which means it was completely getting into a very, very highly overbought zone. So it's cooling off from those overbought territories. Now, typically, when you see cool off from overbought territories, a 20% retracement should be a good starting point, for entry. So I think if you've bought at higher levels, then closer to 640, for example, from those 800 levels could be a good averaging opportunity at the first go, and then every subsequent 10% correction from there on should be taken as good averaging opportunity. So it's a stock which is going through a cool-off process, but I think it's a stock which has done exceptionally well in the last 14-15 months. And I think if the stock consolidates over here for some time, replicates the similar performance, you could see a very strong potential upside from a long term. So 640 is where I would suggest starting off, averaging off for Supreme Petro.
All right, gentlemen, we've got lots of questions piling up, so I'm going to request you to keep your answers just a tiny bit shorter. Gaurang, coming to you on this next one, we've got questions specifically for you from Bakshish. He's asking about CDSL. Can it be bought now with a view of 5 to 10 years?
Well, I think both the IPO and of course the recent surge into the equity market, retail investors account opening has been fantastic growth. In terms of valuation, it looks a little bit stretched. Use dips to get into it rather than getting it at this level. And if you have high risk appetite, maybe some amount of investment could be done at current levels, and in staggered manner you can add at lower levels.
All right, we seem to be having just a tiny bit of problem with Cheryl's feed. We'll get that fixed. We've got Mr. R.K. Ahuja, who's asking about Nalco. He's saying that he holds 700 shares, Kunal, but he's not indicated his buy price. What would you say that someone should do, assuming that they have a short-term view on Nalco?
See, I think from a short-term view, I would sense that the stock will go through a correction or a corrective phase. Metal stocks are getting a bit more segregated. So, what was happening is in the last 5-6 months, almost all of those metal commodity stocks, they were moving up high in a synchronized manner. But somehow in the last couple of weeks, the synchronicity of the metal stocks have been broken, and you've seen very few metal names which are leading up the rally, like Tata Steel and JSW Steel, and the other ones like SAIL and Nalco, etc. They've somehow lost their way in between. So it's a phase, and if it's specifically from a short-term view, I would expect some more correction for National Aluminium from current levels as well. So I think if you've bought at slightly higher levels, then I believe keeping a stop loss for this trade could be a much better approach.
Okay, we've got a question from Sagar on Motherson Sumi, Gaurang. He's got 200 shares that he bought at levels of 130. He's asking whether he can add more at the current juncture. What's your view on Auto Ank?
So this was one of the fundamental picks that I was going to give in case if the time permits and you were going to ask about long-term low-risk investment ideas. So yes, definitely I would advise him. I think the stock has corrected to about 215, 220. We have a target of somewhere close to about 260 from a long-term point of view. I would advise him to average at current levels.
All right. This also would be for someone with the handle name of True_Mind. He's also asked about Motherson Sumi. So there you go. That's Gaurang's view coming in on Motherson Sumi. Madhusudan, on the other hand, has asked about Power Grid InvIT. I couldn't complete that query earlier. He's bought about 1,200 shares at 117 rupees per share. He wants to know whether it makes sense to add some more at current levels. Kunal, Power Grid InvIT, if you track, does it make sense to add at current levels?
I don't track it, so won't be able to comment on it, Shet.
Moving on, then I'll take this query from Sudeep. He's saying that he has Coal India, which he's purchased at 248 rupees per share. He wants to know whether it makes sense to average and hold on for some more years. Gaurang, I'll come to you for this. Coal India, does it make sense for somebody who's already holding on to this counter to go ahead and average and also continue to hold on for the longer term?
Well, so I think since the time it got listed, Cheryl, it has been an underperformer, and despite of some better than expected numbers on certain fronts, the stock, other than being a good dividend payout company, has not done much. Though let me give a disclosure, we do have a positive coverage on Coal India with targets of somewhere close to about 165, and I think that's where very close to those levels recently we saw the stock going and then has corrected. I would not advise him to average at current levels, because then he would have to average a large quantity. Use rallies to maybe exit at higher level and get into some of the private sector banks that I've mentioned, like Federal Bank or City Union Bank or maybe Catholic Syrian Bank. That would be a better alternative.
Okay, Aurobindo Pharma is a share that has taken a bit of a nosedive over the last 1 month or so. It's currently trading at around 730 or thereabouts, and we've got a viewer, Karupaya, who's asking about whether or not it can be bought at current levels. Kunal, and a very specific upside is mentioned. Can it be bought for an upside of 8% over the next 6 months?
Well, I think if it's specifically 6 months, then yes, there is a higher probability that the stock can give you that uptick. Purely the reason for that, which I believe, is the huge oversold nature of indicators for Aurobindo Pharma in the last couple of days. So the stock had broken below its 200 moving average somewhere in the 900-ish kind of territory when the stock was trading in that level end of July, just about 2-3 weeks back. And post that sell-off, the sell-off has been very, very steep and sharp for Aurobindo Pharma, and because of that steep and sharp sell-off, you've seen the indicators coming into an extremely oversold territory. So I think in terms of risk reward, it's an ideal trade to try and go for a risk reward play over here, because if the stock tends to bottom out at these oversold levels of RSI, you could see a potential strong up move coming, and even in the next couple of quarters. So I would agree with the viewer that there is a possibility of a strong upside for Aurobindo Pharma, given that the stock has gone through a correction and the oversold nature of indicators.
All right. Sunita Rai wants a medium-term view on Jyoti Labs and IDFC First Bank, but let's take Jyoti Labs. Gaurang, what's your view on this particular counter?
So we have a fundamental buy call on Jyoti Labs, and from being a traditionally south-based, concentrated company, they have made some significant inroads on pan-India, and they have got some powerful brands as well, which we call as power brands. And they've introduced new products as well into the market, thereby enabling a larger market share. Stay invested, and if you bought it at higher levels, I think dips towards 150 or lower could be used to average as well.
Coming back to you, Gaurang, question from Meena Matthew from Kerala. She's got BEPL purchased at levels of 169 in 2018. She's wondering if she should book out from that and move to something like a Lakshmi Organics? What do you think?
So firstly on Lakshmi Organic, I don't have a view because we don't have a coverage, but I would advise her to look at some mid-cap IT names, some private banks which I've been speaking about since we started this show, Alex. I think that's where you should possibly concentrate, and preferably mid-cap IT names like Mindtree or Coforge, L&T Tech, L&T Infotech could be preferred destination. On BPCL, well, we have been positive, and I think and I hope the divestment picks up steam because we've been hearing a lot on that front. But BPCL happens to be one of the top pick amongst the 3 oil marketing companies.
Gaurang, sorry, it's not BPCL, it is BEPL that we're talking about. This is Bhansali Engineering.
Again, no view on this Bhansali Engineering. I would definitely advise her to make a move to mid-cap IT names or private sector banks.
Okay, this one is from Satya. He's asking about Minda Corp for the shorter term. What's your view on this particular counter, Kunal? How does it look? He's saying that the stock has fallen down from the breakout point.
So yes, it's fallen down from the 140 odd breakout levels, and I think it's come back to a support territory. So I think 125 was the level where the stock had taken a bounce in previous 2 attempts as well, and one of the attempts actually resulted into the stock giving a rally of almost 15% to 18% from those 125-ish kind of support territory. So purely in terms of risk reward, I believe that this 125, 126 should be taken as a good support territory, and that should be a good averaging opportunity for Minda Corp.
Okay, I think I already know what your answer is going to be, but I'm still going to ask you, Gaurang. Several people asking about Tata Motors. One of them, Ravi Shankar, who's bought a large chunk and his average price is 314. Would you hold for the long term?
I would definitely give a hold, and my advice to all those investors who averages, please do not average at small price differences. I think unless and until you don't get 4 or 5% or more downtick from the earlier investment price or level, it does not make any meaningful sense to average at smaller price differences. So make sure that you average at 4 or 5% or more difference. That will make a meaningful average, and I would definitely continue to advise him to hold on to the stock from a long-term point of view.
Kunal, this query is for you, and there are a couple of stocks that you'll need to hear out, so please pay attention to this one. This one is coming from Sagar, and he's saying on the occasion of Raksha Bandhan, he's actually planning to transfer some of his shares to his sister's account as a gift, but he's confused which 2 stocks should he look at. So he's planning on between Wipro, TCS, Gland Pharma, Divi's, Tata Consumer, Pidilite and Asian Paints. All of them good stocks, Kunal, but out of this, which 2 should Sagar gift his sister?
It's a tough one on a festive occasion, but nevertheless, I think out of the stocks which you mentioned, all of them are top quality stocks, right from the likes of TCS's and towards Asian Paints. I think these stocks have proven their mettle over the last many decades. Depending on the price history of each of these individual stocks. Gland Pharma, of course, has been one of the recently listed name. But nevertheless, I think when you try and compare with these large cap names, I think they've done some exceptional work. Now, when you look at it on a longer term basis, so I would probably give more emphasis towards the current rally and the current theme of the rally, which has played out very well in the last 14-15 months, and that's IT space. So I think large cap IT stocks, the mid cap IT stocks have done phenomenally well in this in a kind of a time span. It indicates that there is a bigger bull market in play for these stocks over the longer term play. So purely on that sense, I would suggest that the IT stocks could probably find in more favor, and I think those could be better prospects given the kind of market rally and the structure of the rally which you've seen the last 14-15 months.
All right, gentlemen, it's time to hit the rapid fire segment. Kunal, you'll already be familiar with this, and Gaurang, I think you should also be. We'll try and take as many questions in 2 minutes. Do give your recommendation and maybe one sentence as to why you're saying that. The first one I'm taking to you, Gaurang. This is from SB Patil. He's holding Bajaj Finance, bought at levels of 6,000. Should he hold or sell?
I think he should definitely hold. The way the business is diversified with focus on semi-urban and rural India, I think now with the lockdown being history and unlocking being the reality, this stock can go multiple.
Okay, this one is from Tushar Maru. HEG, Graphite India, can they be bought at current levels, Kunal?
Absolutely. I think both these stocks are exceptionally strong on charts. Should be bought into.
Gaurang, on large cap IT, Sandhya is asking, is HCL Tech the best buy?
Well, we have coverage on all 4 big boys, the TCS, Infosys, HCL Tech and Tech Mahindra. So yes, it is indeed a good buy at currently.
Talking about Tech Mahindra, Luke is asking, he's already holding some of Tech Mahindra, wants to add some more. Does it make sense at current levels, Kunal?
Yes, I would advise him to look at Tech Mahindra even at current levels and if there are any corrections along the way.
Kunal, Baby John is asking about NMDC. What according to you would be the ideal entry price?
I think the current level could be a good entry price for NMDC. It's corrected significantly in the last 5-6 months. Should be a good level to enter.
Abhishek Kohli wants a view on Philips Carbon Black for the longer term. Gaurang, makes sense to look at it?
Give it a pass. We don't cover the stock.
Gaurang, coming back to you, Mahalakshmi is holding Natco Pharma at levels of 953. So just slightly making profits. Should they shift to an IT company or continue holding?
Well, I would prefer IT, and IT has been performing well. So I have named quite a few IT companies, both in the large cap and the mid cap universe. You can shift to either of them.
We're completely out of time, unfortunately, and I'd like to thank both our experts, as Gaurang as well as Kunal, for joining in, for taking all of those questions. Gaurang, particularly, thank you so much for taking the time. We're slipping into a short break on this note, but do stay tuned. Lots more coming up over the course of the remainder of this program.